Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Wilson. I'm the Global Industry Lead for Energy, and welcome to our session today. We've got a great story for you about Sinclair and Appian. Before I start, I got to tell you a couple of old stories. Several decades ago, and I'm not going to tell you how many decades, but I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I was riding around my hometown, Garden City, Kansas, with my dad, and he stopped for gasoline at a Sinclair station on Main and Pine. I can still remember it. It's been there forever. And as I was sitting in the car, he probably gave him $2 for a tank full of gas and got changed back then. But a service attendant, yes, we had them back then, gave me a little stuffed dinosaur. It's called Dino. And that's kind of the icon for Sinclair. If you know Sinclair at all, you've seen the icon. But from that point on, I had to go, whenever Dad stopped for gas, we had to go to the Sinclair station so I could see Dino's brothers and sisters. It made sense, didn't it? But all the way through high school, I would go to the Sinclair station. I was kind of hooked. And I understand I'm not the only person that got hooked that way, just with the dinosaur and the Dino. Several years fast forward, in 2019, we started really doing full court press on energy within Appian. I joined Appian in the fourth quarter of 2018, and we started 2019. One of the first meetings I was invited to attend was in Salt Lake City with several of the executives and managers with Sinclair. They just bought their first application with Appian. They wanted to know, where do we go from here? This was the very first opportunity I had to show a group of managers about what our pillars and apps were all about. These are all a list of applications that we could do in the energy field. It blew them away. They had no idea that we could do that out in the field. And the hands went up. We had to have a meeting with this, a meeting with that. But here we are. And here to tell you a story about today is Brandon and David. And I like to think of it as like the old movie title. Oh, there it goes. It's like the old movie title, A Never-Ending Story between Sinclair and Appian. And I do have my souvenir from that meeting. So that's what it all looks like. Okay. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. I heard only half of that because the speakers are the other way. So I'm Brandon Taylor. I'm the Operational Excellence Business Manager for HF Sinclair. And we're going to talk about some what we did with engineering requests, specific around project management at different complexities against different disciplines of engineering.
My name is David Horn. I am the principal at Gembasys. We're a system integrator who've been working with HF Sinclair for a number of years on a number of different platforms.
I will say really quickly, I'm very happy that the room is not filled. And the second thing is raise your hand if you've done a presentation like this before. I'd be very curious because it is horrible. And so I'm doing my best to keep my lunch down right now, and so we're gonna be fine. So forgive me if I go off on a tangent. I could wax poetically about this subject for quite some time, but I'm gonna try and keep it succinct. So engineering request one-stop shop. Let's get into a brief company overview. So, yep, that's lined up. So I'm a legacy Sinclair Oil Corporation member. We have recently merged with HollyFrontier. We are now HF Sinclair, which means that we have 7 refineries, 2 corporate offices, pipelines, transportation, upstream, downstream. We have a bit of stuff. Appian is part of the legacy Sinclair Corporation, which is now going to be very much an integral part of the new HF Sinclair Corporation. It's going to be a key player in how we manage our projects. So we're going to jump into what we did to put together a project portfolio management. So I hate the chair. So some of the key challenges that we started with is that We have 6 different complexities with how we manage a project, regardless if it's something as simple as a service request, all the way to we have to completely shut down a refinery to do a $20 million project or rebuild on a unit. Those were never consistently held in one place. They were a spreadsheet. They were a something in somebody's Z drive somewhere that they were managing and keeping track of. They also didn't match. So one person would have a spreadsheet here that was talking about, okay, here's how we're going to do this, turnaround project, and somebody else would have, here's how we're going to do this turnaround project. They didn't match not only in where they were at in their fail stage gates or where they were at with their moving forward with the project, but not even monetary, right? Somebody had one bid against it and somebody had something else. We had lack of visibility into the portfolio, which I kind of mentioned with the inconsistencies. So if I was a person that knew a project needed to happen and I would put in a project request, I had no idea where it was. I knew that I put in a request, but I didn't know if it was moving forward, if it got rejected, if it got approved, if it was at, FEL 3 or I was ready for construction. I had no idea. Communication was email-based. There was no alerts, no notifications as things move forward or how things were moving forward. And there were many different forms. So we had the ERS form, we had the PR, a lot of acronyms, right? So we had the project request form, the engineering request form, the service request form, many different paper-based forms that depending on, and oftentimes you didn't know, and I'll get to that in a little bit. If I'm an end user, I'm just, I'm not just, but I'm an operator or I'm a DCS guy or something like that, I don't even know what form to fill out to get the work done that I need. Hence, we went to Appian. That worked. So what we started to do with Appian is we have 6 different complexities that we need to manage. Your very simple complexity would be a complexity 1, which would be a simple service request that maintenance would come in and do the work. Complexity 2, think of it as a request for information. Complexity 3, small project. Complexity 4, capital project. Complexity 5, major capital project. And complexity 6, shut the unit down. We have to shut everything down to do this work. Again, nobody really knew how to or where to go based off the information that they may have. They know that work needed to be done, but they didn't actually know what complexity it should go to, what engineering team it should go to. And so we worked to build a form that based off the information that you provide, it will route it to not only the correct engineering discipline, but it will put it in the correct workflow based on that complexity. We originally started with complexity 4, with what we call PPM, Project Portfolio Management, where somebody could put in a project request form, and that's where we started. And then we moved to engineering requests, and I'm already running out of time. Then we moved to engineering request forms, which was complexity 2, and then what we've been asked to and what we're working on is merging all of those into one system that has a workflow engine behind it to do all the work. I mentioned that last thing. Prioritization. So we have, I do, and my mentor, Bruce Taylor, if everything's important, then nothing's important, right? So one of the big things is, HF Sinclair will get upwards of 150, 100, 200 project requests within a year, but you need a way to rank those across the complexities. So Appian gave us a way to not only give us a database where we have all of the projects within it so everybody can see where they're at and what's going on, but it gives not only the engineers and the refinery leadership the ability to go in and say, okay, here's what's important to us. here's where we're going to get the maximum ROI and move things up in prioritization through the system. So if I'm VP, I can open up Appian, I can see how the refinery is ranking it, or either refineries are ranking their projects. So when we go for funding or approval, we know exactly what's going on with these different projects. Oh, thank God, it's your turn.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, as I said before, we have been doing a variety of different projects with Sinclair, now HF Sinclair, across the board, dealing with operations, finances, a whole variety of things. PPM as a project was initiated by Bruce Taylor, who Brandon mentioned earlier.
No relation.
Appian Technical Services was brought in to help get that over the goal line. And after that was deployed, then my team was brought in to provide kind of continuous care and feeding of that application and developing the Appian platform application set, working with Brandon's organization as he's going to go over the roadmap and really the last 3.5 years now or so. My team had a fairly rich experience in development and in model-based development and applications. So coming into Appian with what they provided with online training and just the wealth of information, we actually found it very, very easy to pick up and be successful to assume this kind of technical responsibility role. Looking at that, I'm going to talk about 3 main areas. We kind of view it in terms of a technical responsibility as a 3-legged stool, in this case, business, process, and product. And so as far as business goes, Brandon's part of our team covers the customer-facing, gathering the requirements, prioritizing those requirements. We're responsible for really leveraging the Appian platform to do this rapid application development to help solve these business problems. One of the important things is the consistency of the user experience, moving from an email / spreadsheet / paper / text message / whatever environment. We really have the opportunity to now make things look consistent and help manage training and a whole series of things by properly managing that user experience. Part of our responsibility is making the platform secure, that the right people should be seeing the right data at the right time. Things that can be open should be transparent to everyone. Things that should be closed should be focused and secured. From a process point of view, we own the governance. So in terms of how does it go from an idea to an implemented project to the lifecycle support and the ongoing maintenance and extension of that. Our objective there is to drive that to zero defects and really help minimize the lifecycle cost, right? If we can drive those support costs down to 0, that's a win for everybody. The customer's happier, Brandon's happier because he doesn't need to pay me to fix stuff. And finally, from a product point of view, to really maximize the benefit of what Appian brings. So really leverage the capability of the product in developing these low-code rapid application solutions. Next, please. From a user experience point of view, I think we had the opportunity, as I said, and we've developed a couple handfuls of application at this point over the last 3 years. We really have the opportunity to set the branding and set the best practice standards in terms of that experience. So when a user goes into an Appian application, they should recognize it as an Appian application and how they interact with it, how they can save things if they don't have a complete data set, what shows up in drop-downs if we're looking at process units or assets, that list should be consistent, whether it's in application 1 or application 4 or application 10. Go back.
Sorry.
One of the keys from a user experience is, having done this a long, long time, you tend to get a lot of pushback is all you're doing is replacing what they had before in something new. So people don't like new stuff, and if it doesn't offer any advantage of what they had before, then why are we even bothering doing this? So one of the keys is you have to make that experience better for them. And the integration and automation is an area where we can dramatically change that value to the end user by bringing data in that perhaps they had to go to 2 or 3 different systems to gather, to put in a spreadsheet, to put in an email, to send it out. That just makes a world of difference in terms of the usability, the efficiency, and that end user experience. In-process visibility is important, and I think Brandon touched on this. Going from not really knowing where anything was in terms of a request or a work in process to being able to see any request sliced and diced by whatever different dimensions, that's all now available at their fingertips. And finally is automated reporting. Before, as you all know, in that kind of manual process world, people spend a lot of time crunching reports, pulling data together, and then sending those out. That's now all done for them, probably better quality reports, and certainly more timely with less user effort.
Right.
From a governance point of view, I'd like to just make a couple points. One is Appian as a prototyping platform. We're following an agile methodology. Perhaps we aren't strict. I call it a hybrid agile methodology because we're a little loosey-goosey in terms of allowing requirements to change or introducing new requirements on sprints. But that's always a trade-off between maintaining your sprints and your timeline versus giving the user what they want, and we tend to fail in terms of violating our times and give the users a little bit more. Part of that is the prototyping ability, and it's really a double-edged sword because it gives the end user the ability to see what they're going to get earlier in the process, but going from a manual process to an interactive process, frequently they really don't know what they want until they see it. And so this is a big opportunity to get feedback, which then creates those violations of the time. The other thing that we did was code reviews, because as I said, my team was new to Appian, and so having a code review before we made investment into testing has paid off big. We can verify what the requirements are and does the code or the configuration as written, does it solve the problem, and is it done efficiently? And so that helps reduce the amount of testing or churn of sending something out and kicking it back. Next. With the one-stop shop, we really had the opportunity to refactor. And so as we've gone down this path for 3.5 years across multiple applications, we've found that there's common patterns that we've implemented over and over again in different applications. So the refactoring is an opportunity to take advantage of the new requirements, to take advantage of the new product features with that ECTA and the customer success team has been, very good working with us to take advantage of all of that and then go back and reconsider, can we improve the data model? Can we turn 15 rules into 6 more generic rules? Can we take process models instead of them all doing step 1, 2, 3? Can we pull that out and then call that as a separate process model? The results are a better user experience, and again, trying to drive that lifecycle cost down to 0. Support? Support, there's two aspects of that. One is Brandon's team that acts like the help desk and handles the training. My team, we take the technical things. So anything that comes up from a performance point of view and the health check, any customer problems where maybe a process model doesn't go completely through, then we take that. So that again is a nice teamwork in terms of how we manage the customer. From a platform point of view, Appian has a huge number of pluses. We found the version managing tool, the process modeler, the fact that there's a marketplace to go out and find content, the regular upgrades, and I think as Matt mentioned this morning, this continued drive to low code. We found even over the 3 years that we've been doing things are much better now in terms of developing sophisticated applications in a true low-code environment versus maybe what we could do even just a few short years ago. Next is opportunities, just a couple things. I think there are some things in the marketplace that Appian really should consider to make part of the core product. They're really, really useful features. And we have had to go out a couple times for complex chart types where we've had to patch data over into a different application to generate those charts or those reports. It would be nice to have a little bit more capability in the Appian product itself in that regard. With that, back to Brandon.
Yeah, no, and I'll be really quick because I really do want, we did a really high overview of how we're interacting with Appian. So I want to give time for questions if we can get something more specific. You actually want to know about how we're managing engineering support, project portfolio management, things like that. I will say that our roadmap is with the 6 applications you see there, with more on the way. We love portals. We're actually going live on the 1st, right? On the 1st. With portals, with our first application. But of those 6 things, there's actually, I don't know, probably 45 sprints associated with those 6 applications. I mean, we're really building out development as quick as we can. It's no longer a push. It was originally a push with PPM. Now it is a 100% pull. We cannot develop fast enough to keep up with demand in what our company is asking for from us through the Appian application. And for the love of God, let's take some questions. Yeah. Right. ERP.
What's your ERP that your Appian application connects with, or does it connect in your project management application?
It was actually easier without the mic. What's my ERP?
What's the ERP that's integrated with your project?
So right now it is Maximo, which is more of a CMMS. We are moving with the companies come together. We're moving over to SAP. And we're gonna integrate the financials with our PPM, with our one-stop shop for engineering. But yeah, we're working on SAP right now. But we're integrating Maximo in our short term.
Map aligned to the 6 complexities that you guys talked about, and then how did you guys actually prioritize these 6 applications among the bigger portfolio that you guys might have?
That's a great question. So the complexities, the 6 complexities that are around project work aren't necessarily aligned with all of those. 3 of those are very integral to those 6 complexities. So 3 of them are going to go away. And it's going to be one application that's going to manage all of those together. So ESM would be a complexity 2 or 3, PPM complexity 4 or 5, and we're getting rid of all of that and going to one, again, the one-stop shop. What was the second part of the question? Oh, and how do I prioritize? So one of the, the OEPM, we love acronyms. The OEPM is actually my internal group's application that we build in Appian to manage all of our projects. So we do the exact same thing as we would with any of the engineering requests, where myself, my team goes in and says, okay, it's not even just Appian. We manage many applications, but We go in and we rank and prioritize, and we work with David and Kanban and things like that.
So I guess my question was more around, did you put like PPM on the roadmap before ESM? How did you
Correct.
prioritize these specific applications?
It was by poll. We actually, I wish and I didn't come into Appian for 2 years now, but I wish we would have prioritized better. It was out of necessity. That was an immediate need that got pushed to us by high-level leadership, because they had no idea what was going on with projects. And then after we showed the value of Appian and the value of PPM, then they wanted extra, right? Now I want this. Now that I see that it does this, can I do this too? And so once we hit that point, we had to prioritize.
Mining to see where were the most inefficiencies and then
I really wish, and that's probably the best way to do it, but that's unfortunately not our story.
Yeah, originally they were kind of single-threaded requests, so we could do one
Right.
then the next. But now, as Brandon said, now once people see the platform, so many more requests. So that whole effort of prioritization has gotten a lot more
Now
difficult.
what you're talking about is actually what we're doing, but at the beginning it was very much, oh my goodness, we need to fix this. So, yes, sir. Yeah, that's definitely in my wheelhouse, and Chris McCulley's as well. So at the very beginning, it's a trick, right? So honestly, and I think maybe you said at the beginning, right? If there's a problem, or no, you said it. If there's truly a problem and a much better solution, if you can educate them on how this is so much better than what you're doing, it takes a minute. And my team, that's what we do the most. That's a lot of what my team does. It's the training, it's the politics, it's having the conversation with them, saying, there's a better way to do this. And if you're lucky, you have top driven down, right? And said, I don't care if you like it or not, go do it. But that's not always the case. Is oftentimes my group is sent out to figure out where are our opportunities, right? Where are we going to do a digital transformation? How do we make our company better and get those synergies and that ROI and that money? So that's what I am tasked with daily. And so we, at the beginning, had a struggle, and there's no lie. But this application specifically, and I'm thinking of a few other that I work with, but this one specifically, it was easier because I really think the UI on Appian is really nice. It's reasonably intuitive. We can spin up things pretty quick, and so they can get into it and say, this works, that doesn't work, I don't like this. And I call David and say, well, change the whatever, dude, we gotta fix it. And that helped, because I work in some other applications where something is not intuitive and we've spent months building it, and we finally get into that meeting with them, right? And we're walking through it, and they're like, well, we need to change this. Well, that's gonna take another 3 or 4 months. I don't know what to tell you. And so that hurts your morale, that hurts your adoption. But Appian has actually, once we got past our first little hurdles and maybe learning curve, it's really turned the corner on it. And adoption now is, like I mentioned, it's not a push anymore. Literally, we cannot keep up on demand.
I think there's a big difference between we will build it and they will come in terms of the level of effort to bring the user community in. As we said, once this was out there, we got a number of requests. There was no difficulty at all in user adoption because they're the ones who asked for it. They were glad to have it. It was much better than the existing process. So probably the biggest case was the initial application where it was done really for senior management.
Right.
And that was more of a build it and they will come kind of thing. Senior management loved it, but the people who had to work with it on a daily basis
didn't.
we're replacing a spreadsheet. I can do anything I want in a spreadsheet. You know, you better make it where I can do everything I want in Appian. And so that kind of thing's been a little bit more difficult.
And I know we're running out of time. I think we have essentially 15 seconds left. I want to be very clear that I really do not like speaking in public, but I have. They asked us to talk about our user story, and I'm happy to get in the weeds. I mean, that's where I live, and that's where I'd really like to do. So if you want to talk to me and really talk about how we did what we did and where we're at and where we're going and all that kind of stuff, that's really where I'm at. But I agreed to do this speaking presentation because actually, you know, the application works, and it's been very useful for us. I have zero stock in Appian. In fact, I'm pretty sure we pay a lot for Appian. Anyway, but I'm happy to do it, and I would really, I'm very interested if anybody else is using Appian for project work or engineering work or anything, financials. For the love of God, I'd love to talk to somebody about finances, but that's why I'm here and that's why I'm speaking, and I don't like it. Anyway, I think we're out of time. Unless, yeah.